everybody, my name is Tanya and welcome to my first week discussion video for the War and Peace Readalong. The readalong is being run by Rincey over at Rincey Reads and Jenny at Adultage Books. I will link both their videos about the readalong below. This week we read Volume 1, which is the first 294 pages, and as you can see I have over sticky tabbed because I didn't know which bits I want to talk about, so I've just gone with the assumption that more is more. And because there are so many, they've probably lost all meaning. I'm really pleased that I've been able to stay on track so far, and I'll get into what I thought about it. So far I've really been enjoying reading War and Peace. My first thoughts when reading it were the French that's in it. To begin with, I found the French quite distracting. It's in French in the text, and then it's translated in English down the bottom, so it took a little while to get used to flicking up and down and would kind of interrupt the flow of my reading. But after a while it got second nature to see the French lines and to flick down and flick back up and find your place again, no worries. I'll see if I can find any of them. Here we've got lines in French, and then down the bottom we've got the English translations. Apparently the camera decided to jump off the stand and into my lap. And by stand I mean a stool on a stool. High-tech equipment in this household. What was I talking about? So all the French sections made me wish that I had studied French more at school. I gave it away after the first 2 years. As soon as it became an elective, I stopped learning. And I think French is such a big part of older literature. It pops up a lot. Sometimes translated like this, sometimes not. And it's too much of a hassle to run every sentence through Google Translate, and not everything comes out sensibly. It's times like that that I wish that I had learnt more, because the smidgen that I've got is not useful. So once getting used to reading the French, my next stumbling point in the readability of War and Peace is the war parts, and I don't know exactly what it is, but I can say that I definitely enjoyed the peace parts of this more than the war parts. And I don't know, it seems to be almost from the first sentence of the chapters feel different somehow. I can't tell that it's any particular difference in writing style or anything, but something about them made them denser and harder to read and made my mind wander. And there were still good scenes and really interesting scenes within the war parts, but in general I got so much more enjoyment out of the parts that were to do with, you know, social interactions and parties and all that fun stuff. There are some definite laugh out loud parts in this. You wouldn't necessarily expect it from an older Russian text. Not much has changed when it comes to boys drinking and boys' bravado when drinking. I love the fact that to demonstrate that Pierre was falling into the wrong crowd, we first have a bet that somebody can scull a bowl of rum while sitting outside on the bricks outside the window without holding on, and I can do it, and the bet, and I think you could see that happening now. You could, just that foolish boys drunken bravado. Society, humans, we haven't changed that much in this time. And then of course a scene I know everybody appreciated, again to demonstrate that Pierre's falling in with the wrong crowd. Tolstoy's example is to say that, you know, we just got a bear and tied a policeman to the back of the bear and pushed it in the water. Really, Tolstoy, your first thought when trying to portray the wrong path that Pierre's taking, that, oh, he's a hooligan, he's going down, you know, he's getting in with the wrong crowd. I know what I'll do to portray that. I'll have them tie a police officer to a bear. But it was used to great comedic effect. So aside from the French and from the struggle that I seem to have in some of the war parts, I found it very readable. It's obviously quite dense and can take some time to get through sections. Each page there's a lot of text on it, and it's not something that you can just rush through. But I'm finding it very readable so far, and I'm interested to go on. I'm getting invested in some of the characters' storylines. I'm not finding it a big problem now, but some of the notes that I took from the first day of reading was there's a lot of repetition in description. Bolkonsky has a beetling brow and Elizaveta has a short lip with a mustache. And it keeps getting mentioned again and again and again. But I think that's calmed down, or at least we haven't been with her. So maybe we'll get to find out about her mustache soon. So there were a few surprises that I had given the blurb and what I've actually found in the story so far. On the back it obviously says, this follows three of the most well-known characters in literature, Pierre Bezukhov, the illegitimate son of a count who is fighting for his inheritance and yearning for spiritual fulfillment, Prince Andrei Bolkonsky, who leaves his family behind to fight the war against Napoleon, and Natasha Rostov, the beautiful young daughter of a nobleman who intrigues both men. So this seems to be setting up as a love triangle with Natasha and then Prince Andrei and Pierre as her suitors, and obviously this is going to travel a fair length of time in the book, because I was surprised to see that Natasha at the start of the book is only 13 and Andrei is an older married man, and then there's Pierre, who is married by the end of volume 1, and we'll talk more about that scene later. And I don't know why this necessarily surprised me, given the storyline of Anna Karenina. Obviously adultery isn't something that Tolstoy shies away from, so I don't exactly know why that surprised me, but I thought it would be, here's Natasha and here are the two suitors trying to win her hand. I'm also surprised by the lack of interaction between these three characters so far. There was that one scene where Pierre was at dinner at the Rostovs, but otherwise there hasn't really been any crossing over of these three characters at this stage, so it kind of seems, obviously it's going to become a bigger part later in the book, but the blurb obviously hasn't come to fruition yet. The other thing, the fact that Natasha is supposedly so in love with Boris, and they're too young, or she's too young, but he's going to propose in 4 years, and it's like, well, he's not mentioned on this blurb at all, so I'm guessing poor Boris gets the shaft pretty quickly. And there is the quote, you know, that she can remember Nikolai, her brother, who's gone away to war, but she can't remember Boris. So obviously it's quite a fickle attachment at this point in time, so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of character Natasha develops into. Obviously she's quite a free-spirited girl, as evidenced by the scene of her running full pelt in the room of elders, and the hilarity that she gains from that. But so I'm interested to see what kind of woman Natasha's going to develop into being. Now, speaking of Pierre's marriage, the poor guy, I loved his engagement scene, where Prince Vasily's, you know, they're waiting for him to propose. Oh, it's the right thing, he's got to propose tonight, and he's going, oh god, I can't say anything. And so when it gets to the point that nothing's happening, Vasily just comes in and congratulates them like they're already engaged, and it's like, oh well, I guess it's done now. For all that I struggled with the war parts, I found there were some really touching quotes in the passages devoted to the war sections, and I'll see if I can find some of them. I definitely did sticky tap them. I've just got a few to search for you to find them. Here's one. They're talking about the lines of battle. One step beyond that line, reminiscent of the lines separating the living from the dead, and it's the unknown, suffering and death. And what is there? Who is there? There beyond this field, and the tree, and the roof lit by the sun. No one knows, and you would like to know, and you're afraid to cross that line, and would like to cross it, and you know that sooner or later you will have to cross it and find out what is there on the other side of the line, as you will inevitably find out what is there on the other side of death. And you're strong, healthy, cheerful and excited, and surrounded by people just as strong and excitedly animated. So, if he does not think it, every man feels who finds himself within sight of an enemy, and this feeling gives particular brilliance and joyful sharpness of impression to everything that happens in those moments. And then another one talking about battle lines is, where, on which side now, was that line which had so sharply separated the two armies, he asked himself, and could not answer. Prince Andrei looked at Tushin and, saying nothing, walked away. Prince Andrei felt sad and downhearted. All this was so strange, so unlike what he had hoped for. I also found it interesting, the hypocrisy of when Pierre suddenly became legitimate and he was now Count Bezukhov, and how everybody's opinions of him changed. There's a quote here that I've got marked. Formerly in Anna Pavlovna's presence, Pierre had constantly felt that what he said was improper, tactless, out of place, and that his remarks, which seemed clever to him while he was preparing them in his imagination, became stupid as soon as he spoke them aloud, and that, on the contrary, the dullest remarks of Hippolyte came out as clever and pleasing. Now everything he said came out as charmant. Even if Anna Pavlovna didn't say it, he could see that she wanted to say it and only restrained herself out of respect for his modesty. And I think that kind of typifies that real snobbery of the aristocracy, that somebody was gauche and horribly out of place and inappropriate just because they were illegitimate, and now that they have a title and standing, they suddenly become, you know, the most witty, the most charming, the most proper of people, when their conversation hasn't changed at all. So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen to Marie, the sister of Andre, now that she's refused to wed Prince Vasily's son, and that her maid or companion is in love with him. What's going to happen now in that situation, and what is her future? Is she going to escape from her father? You know, we've got the quote, "So you've spruced yourself up like that for the guests, eh?" he said. "Fine, very fine. You do your hair up in some new way for the guests, but I say to you in front of the guests that in future you dare not change anything without my permission." And you think, ugh, fathers. So in conclusion, I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm so glad that the read-along's finally given me the impetus to pick it up. I'm looking forward to getting more of Natalia and finding a bit more out about her. And I'm interested to what kind of part she'll play, whether she's going to be the coquette and flirt with both the men. I'm not quite sure what to expect from the rest of the novel yet, but I'm definitely interested in finding out. If you're participating in the read-along, please let me know if you post any videos. Leave links to them down in the comments because I'd love to watch them. It's been really good using the hashtag to see where everyone else is at, and that other people are laughing over the same sections. As I said, the drunken hijinks, I think, are probably the highlight in terms of just simple amusement. Jenny at the moment has raised the question of whether the original timeline for this is ambitious and whether we should scale it down. I've certainly got a lot of other reading that I'm wanting to do this month, so we'll see what happens. But as things currently stand, I will see you next week for my discussion. Ow! Cat claws! I will see you next week for my discussion of Volume 2. I guess that's fitting, since, you know, we had a few cat photos in the hashtag, and that I've started my hashtag Cats of Read WP. She's been my good reading buddy through it all, and either mushing the side of the book to try and get my attention off it, or just sitting down in companionable solidarity with getting through this tome. So I guess it's only fitting that she makes an appearance in this video, because she's been a big part of it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.